416. It did not make sense to them. They could not understand just how a few hours earlier they had witnessed and experienced amazing supernatural moments with Jesus. But now they were troubled, fearful, and their heart was being tested, and they were losing the sight of the center. Their focus was not where it needed to be. What about us? How many times have we experienced wonderful moments filled with awesome encounters, experiences, and miracles? Maybe at work, or school, or at home, or in camporees, congresses, and many more that have left wonderful footprints in our hearts and minds, experiences that we cherish and love to remember. However, because of an unexpected storm in our lives, we find ourselves drifting away from those memories, and we become lost on a dark and stormy sea of troubles far away from shore. Tired, exhausted, filled with feelings of humiliation, disappointment, resentment, impatience, and unbelief. Because we also have tried to control the situation but haven't been able to do it. And our faith is being tested. Our focus is not fixed on where it needs to be, and our pictures come out blurry, over or underexposed. And as a result, we start to lose sight of our aim, Jesus. Number 2, Jesus always comes to calm our storms at unexpected times. Someone to read for us from the book of Matthew 14:24.
But the ship was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary.
Look at the disciples. They were struggling. They were having a hard time, desperately rowing because a strong wind was blowing against them. But in the midst of all the turbulence, Jesus shows up and comes close to them. Someone to read for us from the book of Matthew 14:26.
And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a spirit," and they cried out for fear.
At the beginning, when the disciples saw Jesus walking on the water, they were afraid. They said, "It's a ghost," and cried out in fear. Someone to read for us from the book of Matthew 14:27.
But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, "Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid."
At first, they were not able to recognize Jesus when they saw him walking on water. But almost immediately, the disciples recognized that the ghost was Jesus, and he quickly responded to them, "Have courage, it is I, do not be afraid." The spirit of prophecy states, and again they cried out, but this time not because of fear, but asking Jesus for help. This is from SDA Bible Commentary, Volume 5, page 416, which of course he provided. Today, the same can be happening to us. We might be going through difficult situations in our lives, storms that are making us feel that we are about to flip over and sink. However, Jesus is walking towards us, getting closer to us, maybe not at the time that we think he should come. But Jesus knows when is the best time for him to show up in our lives. Look at the disciples' experience. When the boat was far away from shore and all their hope was almost gone, it is at a time that Jesus came into the picture, bringing courage and peace. Amen? Amen. Something important to mention is that by walking on water, Jesus demonstrated to his disciples that the very thing they were scared of, the intense, violent, raging, and furious storm in the sea, was the very opportunity for him to come close to them. The same is for us today. The difficult moments of experience that we are scared of, like friends or family problems, illnesses, financial crisis, disabilities, the loss of loved ones, and many more, are only opportunities that can bring Jesus closer to us. And when he comes to our lives, he can give us the courage and peace that we are desperately looking for. Amen? Amen. Number 3, our aim must be focused on Jesus. Finally, there is an important individual that we need to make mention of, and this is Peter. Peter was a real pathfinder. He was a leader, adventurous, sometimes a little stubborn, but willing to do things that nobody else had done before. Someone to read for us Matthew 14, verse 28.
And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water.
In the midst of the storm, the turbulent water ran, the strong wind, Peter told Jesus that he wanted to go towards him. I don't know how many of you are willing to go out of the house, car, tent, and many more in the middle of a heavy storm. Well, maybe most of us are more comfortable in staying in a dry, warm, calm, and secure place while the storm lasts. Peter wanted to do everything for the Lord. He was just waiting for Jesus to command him to get out of the boat into the water, and he could do it. And that's what he did. Can you imagine that scene? This was a perfect moment to take a picture. Peter focusing everything on Jesus. Spirit of Prophecy records, if you look at Peter's special and unique moment, he had to step out of the boat in faith. It was faith that sustained him on the stormy waters and gave him buoyancy. But faith was only active only so long as he kept his sight fixed on Jesus. This is from the SDA Bible Commentary, Volume 5, page 417. When Peter was already walking on water towards Jesus, with his sight focused on Jesus, apparently Peter forgot that the moment, the wind and the waves. As his feet became accustomed to walking on the surface of the water, he evidently thought of his companions in the boat and wondered what they thought of his newfound skill. Turning his glance momentarily back to the boat, he lost sight of Jesus. At that moment, he was in the trough between the two waves, and when he returned his gaze again to where Jesus had been, he could no longer see him. This is from the Desire of Ages, page 381. Everything that Peter was able to see was the turbulent water and the strong wind. In that brief instant, the self-satisfaction had diluted faith with pride, so to speak, and faith lost its sustained power. Fear came upon Peter and filled his heart and mind. There was nothing that he could do, absolutely nothing. Just cried out for Jesus' help. This is from the SDA Bible Commentary, Volume 5, page 417. Yes, Peter's aim was to go to Jesus. He was focused on coming closer to him. No matter the storm, the wind, the situation they were experiencing. However, the moment when Peter focused his sight on something else, when he focused in interest in himself, in what he wanted, everything fell apart. Now, for us today, how many of us have had the same experience? Or how many of us are going through this experience? We already know on whom we need to focus. We know what our aim is, and we know that our faith will be strong to sustain as long as we keep our eyes focused on Jesus. We already know of this, but sadly, many people have turned away from focusing on Jesus